Texas State has lost 3 in a row, is winless in the Sun Belt, and falls to 3-4 on the season. So I think it might be time to hit the panic button. Welcome back to Wizard Wednesday. I'm your host, Zach. Another week, another overtime loss for these Texas State Bobcats. We switched up the look in the studio here. We're going to go with blue lights for now because I'm feeling blue. Because this season is just kind of a downer. But we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about Marshall, and then we're going to talk more broadly about the state of Texas State football and how I'm feeling about the future, the present, and maybe we'll even talk about the past a little bit, because I think if you take it all, you have to take it all in together. The G.J. Kinney era thus far, you have to take it all in together and contextualize it, and I'm going to try to do some of that after we talk about Marshall really quickly. So I really think this is another poor defensive performance against Marshall. This is probably the defense's best non-FCS game of the year, and that's pretty disappointing. In their best non-FCS game of the year, they gave up 40 points. They gave up 480 yards plus of total offense on the other side. So if this is the best, I don't necessarily know if Texas State's defense's best performance is enough on its own to win. It might be that the Texas State's best puts the team as a whole in a position to win, but I don't necessarily know that Texas State's defense's best performance on the field thus far put us in a position for an easy win, which is what you want. If you want your defense to have a great game or good enough to win game, you want the offense to easily, and you lose. So the defense has its best game and you still lose. You want to be able to point to the offense and say that they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. But I think they did. I don't necessarily think that the offense had the best game of the year, but I think the offense did plenty. The offense did enough, and really it's not on them. Really on the defense, I think, not being able to stop teams in the fourth quarter, not being able to get a stop when it counts. There were some stops, just not enough. And then I also think you have to look at poor coaching. So let's talk about the offense first, though. Let's talk about why it wasn't the best game. I mean, first off, they struggled to run the ball all game. It seems like Marshall loaded the box, had a solid plan in run defense. What you're going to do in that situation, GJ talked about this, I think on the radio show, maybe elsewhere, talked about, some of these screens to the outside. If they're going to load the box with a bunch of people, you want to do a screen to the outside where there are less people. And they did that to pretty good effect, but that's going to make the running game look worse because that's not a run. That's a screen to a receiver. So technically a pass. The Brad Jackson strip sack early in the game hurt. And, that's on Brad a little bit, I guess, but it's mostly on the offensive line. I'm not sure that this is the offensive line's best tape of the year. It's still not bad. Brad got sacked 4 times, which is not terrible in a game like this. One of those was the strip sacks. But they still didn't do enough at the end to win. I'm not going to put that on the players, though. I think that was play calling, and we'll get to that when we talk about coaching, which is up next. I think this is why, if you clicked on this video, if you're tuning in, you probably want to hear about coaching, what my thoughts are on coaching, specifically some of the decisions to go for it, some of the decisions not to go for 2. Anyway, so let's start right there. Third quarter, I think about 3 minutes left in the third quarter, the offense drives down into the red zone, ends up getting into a situation where they are 4th and 3, 4th and short in the red zone, looking to score. They could have opted to go to a field goal, which would have moved them up to 7 points, like up by 7. They were trying to score there and get up to make it double digits. Okay, so that's kind of the context. So let's talk about my initial reaction on Twitter and what I said, because what I like to do, I don't like to use the benefit of hindsight when I tweet out my thoughts on these situations. I like to tweet them out with what I think in my gut in the moment before the decision happens, because I think that's the fair way to judge it. Again, I'm not going to say you had a fan. You can do whatever you want. But for me, if I'm going to make that decision, if I think they should go for it or I think they should kick the field goal, I'm going to try to tweet that out and get it out into the universe in the history books before it happened. That way, when I am reacting to something, I'm not reacting in hindsight with the ability to see what has happened. I'm reacting with my gut kind of in the moment as GJ and company is doing it. So I tweeted out, go for it. And the reason I tweeted out, go for it is because the book, so analytically, would say that there's not much difference in being up 4 and being up 7. You're still within the margin of 1. You're above a field goal in that situation. You're up more than a field goal, but you are up less than or equal to 1 score. So either way, Marshall is going to, on the next drive, they're going to be trying to score a touchdown. I mean, it's third quarter. They're going to try to do that anyway, right? So that's what the book says. 4th and 3, dial up your best play, get the yards, get the touchdown, go up by 2 scores, and that changes the game quite a bit. So on GJ's side of things, I get it. And initially, I was with him. The thing that changed my mind, with the benefit of hindsight, I will say, is a lot of points that you guys made, that you can't give away points knowing how our defense operates. And especially the way that we've been losing the past few games of losing by 3, losing by 2, losing by 1. You can't give away points in that situation. So you need to just take the guaranteed points all the time. And I think, I tweeted out I was wrong. I think I was wrong in that moment. And, if I was the head coach, y'all would be saying mean things about me online as well, because I would have in that moment gone for it. But with the benefit of hindsight, I understand where y'all coming from. It didn't work out, though. That's part of this, too, is that the play they dialed up was a little 12 personnel thing. So 12 personnel, so 2 tight ends. They had 2 tight ends kind of in like a condensed set with your 2 star receivers out wide to the left in that wide split. It was kind of like a condensed set and then a wide split over to the left-hand side. Marshall gave them man coverage. So Bo and Chris were both on the left-hand side. They had just man coverage over top. And what we ended up running is like a almost like a levels concept, or essentially a levels concept. You're trying to put someone in conflict where they have to decide to go. It's like a high-low, essentially, with 2 tight ends. So we decide to run kind of an RPO 2 tight end route, high-low situation. So the problem with that is Marshall had loaded the box. If we have 2 wide receivers out wide, so it's 2 defenders, man coverage, and everyone else is inside, that means that Marshall had 9 guys covering that little condensed set. So it's 9 guys against 9 guys. You take out the quarterback, they have an extra guy in coverage. And they only had 2 eligibles because we kept Lincoln in because we had, they blitzed. So essentially what happened is on this 4th and 3 call, we run this levels / high-low concept with 2 guys, 2 tight ends, which I'm all for using the tight ends. But in that situation, do you only want your tight ends going out for a route? And then Chris Don and Bo Sparks have little dummy routes. They don't even run slants. They just kind of stand there. And then, eventually Brad chucks it up, throws an interception. He's trying to just throw the ball away out of bounds off his back foot. Didn't get it far enough. I don't blame him from that. It's not a big deal. So my point being is that there's a couple things here, right? The book says go for it for 2 reasons. One, analytically, you want to be up by 2 rather than be up by 1 score. And the book also takes into account, like, you need to have a defense to where you're okay living with not getting it, which I would argue that's the main point that swayed me, is that we don't have that. We don't have the defense where I'm comfortable with giving the ball back to the other team having not scored points. Points are a premium because our defense is leaky and not having a great year. Or whatever. They're not good. I'll just say it. Maybe I've been too soft. The defense is not good. And so when you have a defense that is not good, you want to take as many points as you can. That's part of it. the other part of it is that if you're going to go for it, you need a better play call in that moment. Landon Kempel has had a great year. I've been singing his praises. I think I even said I was giving him flowers last game. I didn't like that play call at all. I didn't like it. I think that if you're going to do that, you want to make sure either call a timeout if you see that they're loading the box and you don't get the look that you want, or have something else dialed up to where Brad can has an option on the outside rather than just taking away in that moment two of your most explosive, best players on the field. It didn't make a lot of sense to me, but there's my big spiel about the fourth down call. Long, too long, didn't read, skip ahead, past the rant. Basically, in the moment, I said go for it because I believe in the book. I believe in analytics. I was wrong in hindsight and also thinking about this defense. All right, so let's talk about some other stuff. Like, we in the fourth quarter, the offense tried to run the ball. I don't want to harp on Landon too much, but offense continued to try to run the ball when it wasn't working, and they're trying to run the clock there, but I'd like to see, be aggressive. If you were trying to be aggressive on that fourth down call, continue to be aggressive. You're trying to be aggressive on this fake punt, which, what is that? Why are we doing fake punts? That hasn't been the MO of this team this year, is these fakes. And it worked out until it didn't work out, until there was a fumble that wasn't really a fumble, if we're being honest. If we are looking at the replay, he was down, but going into games like this, or just in general, that you have to live with the consequences of the risks that you take. And so if you put the hands in a punter who's not your typical guy who's going to be having the ball, and he ends up dropping the ball at the end of the play. Maybe the play was over, maybe it wasn't, but that's a consequence of the risk that you took, and you have to be able to live with it. With this defense, again, it's not very good. I don't know that that's a risk worth taking. I think that you just put the defense in a better position. Give them the best shot that you can. All right, so last thing with the Marshall game, again, I've been saying defense isn't good. Defense isn't good enough yet. I don't know that they're going to be good enough this year. I'm not sure what the rest of this season looks like because of that, because this was the best best game all season for this defense, and it still was not dominant. There was only one turnover. It was a good turnover, but there was only one turnover. And it isn't enough to win us games, this defense. This defense is not going to win any games. And when you have a defensive scheme that is relying on turnovers, relying on tackles for loss, when it's not working, it's really bad. When it's working, it's great. And it's destructive, and it can really set up your offense in good position. And it's this symbiosis of explosive football. But sometimes a part of that machinery doesn't work, and you have to have something else to hang your hat on, right? When the run doesn't work, you need to be able to pass the ball. It feels like this defense is a little bit too much feast or famine, and we're in the famine. So hold on to your hats. Maybe, I don't know when the famine ends. I don't know if there is a feast this year. And when you're in the famine with this defense, nothing works well. The offense has to work twice as hard. They have to do something that is a little against what they would normally do, in that they have to both be explosive and quick and, do NASCAR tempo, so even faster tempo than up tempo. Like, you got to have a whole new name for it. NASCAR, boom, 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 get to the ball, snap the ball. So you have to go NASCAR very early on in the game. And then in the fourth quarter, the offense has to go, okay, cool, let's slow it way down, because the worst thing that could happen here is the defense could we could give the ball back to the opposing offense, and our defense has to go back on that. So the offense has to both start really fast, play very fast, and then we're also asking them to close the game. And they're doing a decent job of it. A couple weeks ago, there was like an eight-minute drive, which is exactly what you want to do, but that's not what it's designed for. This is not what we're planning going into the season. of having an offense that is super up tempo and then in the fourth quarter slows it way down and tries to really lean and run. Nah, that's not the way it's supposed to work. And that's all a product of the defense. If you can't trust the defense, you start to make different types of decisions. You start to make decisions like, oh, okay, maybe we do need to go for it on fourth because I need as many points as I can because I don't trust the defense to stop them. So it's not good enough. Let's talk about the state of Texas State football because it's not good. We're not in a good place on a multitude of fronts. And there's been some positive spin or attempts at positive spin. And I get it. I get it from the administration, from the coaching staff. You can't look at it the way a fan looks at it. You can't look and say, woe is me, everything's over, I'm mad, I'm out, whatever. I've seen some fans don't want to watch the games anymore, which, hey, again, I'm not going to tell you how to fan. I get it. It's frustrating. But I've seen that positive spin, and I just want to address some of it that I think is a little misguided. And I'm not going to hold back. This might get me in trouble. Some folks may not agree with me. Some folks may say that I'm overreacting to a certain aspect of this, but there was something that was said that really rubbed me the wrong way. And I feel like now is a good time to talk about it. But let's talk about the state of Texas football first. Texas State football. We will we'll go into that point in a second. But so we have 5 games left. In order to make a bowl, we have to win 3 out of 5 games to get to 600. To get to 6 wins, 500 football. You have to win 3 of those 5 games. JMU is going to be a tough sell. ULL is having their worst year since I've been a Texas State fan. I don't know. We'll see. Southern Miss is having a good year. I think that's going to be tough. ULM is winnable. And then, South Alabama is the last game of the year, maybe winnable. So it's going to be difficult to find those 3 wins. So I just want to prepare you right now. This, before the season, we were all upset about the First Responders Bowl. Don't send us back to the First Responders Bowl. We all may get our wish. We may not even get that call to any bowl. So we'll see what happens. That being said, with where we're at, there is a lot of backlash online. There's a lot of folks that are calling to have the DC fired, which is not my place, but I get it. I get where that's coming from. There are expectations for this place that fans want to live up to. And the thing that rubbed me the wrong way was something that GJ said. And I like GJ as a person. This thing rubbed me the wrong way. He said that we brought expectations into this place, and now we're having to live up to those expectations. So, and that's not a direct quote, but that was the gist. Basically, like, before we got here, there weren't expectations of going to a bowl and winning the Sun Belt Conference. And we came here talking about him and the coaching staff, and now we have those expectations, and now a lot of the fans' backlash is actually because of those expectations. At least that's the way that I took it, is that, they wouldn't even have cared. Fans wouldn't even have cared 4 years ago if we had this type of season. Well, just me personally, I came here in 2015 for grad school. I went to McNeese. A lot of folks know that for undergrad, 4 years there. FCS football. Actually played against Texas State, or watched McNeese play against Texas State then. So I just finished my 10th year here in San Marcos. I went to school at Texas State, grad school for 2 years. My second year, I met my wife in the halls of UAC. My formative years of my early adulthood have all been in San Marcos. And that whole time I've been a Texas State fan. I went to games during the Withers era. I was working at the school at Texas State during most of the SPAV era. I left for my current job, which is in Austin, but I still live in San Marcos and I commute to Austin. My wife still works in town, and this is where I want to be. San Marcos is my home. I live in a place where I'm lucky enough to, when I'm walking to get my morning coffee, I'm able to see Alkek on the hills in the distance. And I say all that because I had the expectations that we should be going to bowls and we should be winning the Sun Belt when I got here in 2015. I had the expectation in 2016. I was worried about losing Jake Spavital to the Cardinals when Cliff Kingsbury got here because I had such high expectations when Spav got here that I didn't want to lose him to the Cardinals. This isn't new, these expectations. This is the first time the administration and the coaching staff have gotten close to the expectations that we have here as Texas State fans. But to say that the expectations were brought in by this coaching staff, it doesn't sit well with me. Because, coaches come and go, and I hope GJ's here for a very long time. I really do. But if GJ ends up getting a better job, I'll still be here. You'll still be here watching this team. And those expectations aren't going with GJ. Or, the expectations don't go away if a new coach comes in here. The expectations are the expectations. The standards are the standards. Just because the standards aren't met doesn't mean that the standards aren't there. And no, there wasn't a lot of people at the football games. And no, there wasn't a lot of success. And the funding wasn't there. I get that. I don't want to take away what K-Damp and GJ and Don, everyone has done. That's not my purpose in this. My purpose is to say Texas State should have high expectations and always has high expectations. That transfer up into FBS wasn't done well. But pretty sure Barrick Neely, won 10 games here. We have guys on the coaching staff who won 10 games here. The expectations are the expectations. The standards are the standards. So I don't really want to hear in the middle of a 3-game losing streak where coaching decisions have been suspect, where the defense has been suspect, that, expectations were brought here with the coaching staff, because that's just not what it was. It was always a sleeping giant. Maybe it still is a sleeping giant to some extent, but it's gonna get better. And I think it's gonna get better with GJ here. I really hope it is. But I don't like it when things are going bad on the football field and then somehow, past success is used to basically say like fans should just be happy with what they got. Fans should be happy with the 2 bowls. No. Fans are not going to be happy. Fans aren't going to be happy, especially with, the level of support that is coming in. And no, maybe it's not P4 support, but it's certainly a lot more support than Spav got. It's certainly a lot more support than Withers got. And that's the way it should be and always should have been. But we freaking flew a banner. I say we, I wasn't involved in that, but fans, sickos flew a banner because they were so upset with the athletic department. The standard has been the standard. The expectations have been here and they'll continue to be here. And I hope that Texas State wins out this year. And we're talking about a small bump in the road in the GJ Kinney era. But if it's not, if this season goes poorly, next season, the expectations are going to be the same. I don't care that we're going to the Pac-12. The expectations are to win the Pac-12. So that's my rant. That is what kind of rubbed me the wrong way in all of this. It's hard enough. It's hard enough watching a team that should be winning not win. And I know that, there's players and coaches and there's a bunch of reasons behind that. And it's just a game at the end of the day. But it's a game involving my alma mater, the place that I choose to be, the place that I'll always be a fan of. My fandom isn't rooted in coaches or players or administrations or presidents. My fandom is rooted in the place, in the memories, in the university that I'm so proud of, in meeting friends and getting an education and meeting my wife and seeing Alkek in the morning when I'm grabbing my coffee. That's what my fandom is rooted in. And in that, I have such high expectations for the place and the university. I know what the university can be, and I've seen it get better and better and better. And that's where the expectations come from. They didn't come in with a coach. Rant over. I won't do that rant again, but it hit me a certain way in all of this, and I felt I needed to get it out. But this is, again, a very long episode. Hopefully there's going to be some cutting down. I guess, eventually, the longer we go on a losing streak, the longer these episodes are going. I can't keep this up. I gotta have some more time. All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please consider subscribing to the YouTube. Subscribe on Apple Music, or not Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Follow us on all the socials, on X at WinNow or Get Bent, on Instagram and TikTok at WNOGB. There will be no cinematic recap after the JMU game because I work on Wednesday. I'm taking a half day Tuesday to be at the game so I can take some pictures. So if you see me on the sidelines, I'll still have a camera, but I'm going to take some pictures, maybe get some thumbnail type stuff. But there will be no JMU cinematic recap. Just couldn't really work it out logistically. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching, and we will see you. I don't know when we'll see you either, because it's a Wednesday, and I might leave that space for the main show, depending on what Kep wants to do. I'll see you eventually. I'll see you around. How about that?